Hey, 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 live from Denver. It's Friday night. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Critical Conversation show. Let me just make sure that all is well. Yeah, good. All right. Got a lot going on tonight. Welcome to Critical Conversations for 12th of January.
That is correct.
In the year of our Lord, 2024. And as you can see, I'm joined by my beautiful, absolutely gorgeous and amazing wife, Melissa.
Hello, everyone.
Very happy you're here, sweetie.
Thank you.
Yes. We're very happy you're here, too. Thank you very much for joining us. All my critics out there, you guys are awesome. And let's check in on the comments. Yeah, all is well. Seeing everybody from the Pacific Northwest all the way around. And, you know, we're going to get to that, Vernon. We are absolutely going to talk about all of that stuff in some detail. And some of my comments on this might surprise you. It's going to be a nuanced conversation this hour on this topic. Well, we're going to get to that. But first, we have all of our usual beginnings and everything to do because we have just started the show and we want everybody to have some time to arrive. And so... how has your week been, baby?
Weird. Good and sort of not. I am going to start a different job in about a week and a half, so that's exciting.
Yep.
And there's some stuff going down at my current job that's not so exciting for people that are still employed there.
Yeah. We got, those layoff things and all of that, right? Yeah.
Don't want to say too much, but yeah.
No, exactly. Guys, I love the comments here. Hey, Theta Novus, see you in the comments section there. Hey, Leslie, enjoy that book. Remind me. I had a couple things to make sure I note. I'm going to mention this, and then we're going to do our quote.
Okay.
Because seeing Leslie's name in the thing there just reminded me. If y'all want signed copies of my book, and I, of course, didn't have it out here now. It's on the other side of the room over there, so I'm not going to run over and grab it because I'm a dork. Anyway, Scientology, A to Xenu, an insider's guide to what Scientology is really all about. If you would like a signed copy of that, I am more than happy to send you one. I've actually only got 3 or 4 more printed copies of the book in my possession. I would have to do a whole new reorder to get more. So anyway, if you want those, you can contact me for it. Obviously, there will be a little bit of a price hike for a custom, writing for you in the book. And of course, you got to pay for the shipping because I don't know where you are, and it could cost a lot to ship the book to you. But anyway, that's something I thought I would throw out there. Leslie very kindly asked me for one the other day, and then said, "You need to talk about this." And I was like, "Yes, you're right." So anyway, there is that. All right. So commercial over. What's our quote for the week?
Well, I decided since it's Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. To do a quote from him. Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle, the tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals.
There you go. Well,
doesn't come easy.
No, it doesn't. Speaking of passionate individuals, I see you in the comments, Jeff. Welcome to the show this evening. Awesome. And yeah, it is exactly in the spirit of MLK that we actually talk tonight about, or that we're going to talk tonight about, all this stuff. Then there's pros and cons. There really is. But again, before we get to that, a couple other things first. Starting with, you guys have gone a week without, so I think it's time we bring back our Snuggles, Not Struggles cam. And there is our little bundle of furry joy right there.
Trying to take a nap, and I'm bothering him.
That's right. Now, you may have previously, prior to New Year's, you may remember you'd sometimes see him up on the couch. Well, that couch has now been replaced over Christmas.
Some reclining chairs.
Yes, Santa was nice to us this year, and we got some reclining chairs. So there's Benson cozying up in one of them. He's just, well, as you can see, we can't stop remarking to him kind of all day long. It's a little weird, actually, just how much we tell him how cute he is.
Yes.
But
he's going to get a complex.
Yeah, yeah, he might.
If he doesn't already have one.
Might already have one. That's right. There he goes.
Vernon Benson is 4.
Yeah, just this last
June.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, 4.5, I guess now. Man, he ages so fast. All right, well, there's our Snuggles, not Struggles cam for you guys. And
he had another question in there about the actual copy of the book is on Amazon, right?
Oh, yes. You can get my book or you can order it anytime on Amazon. I've self-published there. You can get a printed copy. It'll be print on demand, and they'll send it to you. Or you can get an audio version, or you can get an ebook, Kindle version.
Cool.
Yeah, so all available there. Okay, so there was our Snuggles, not Struggles cam. Yeah, sometimes you really need to. In fact, I'd say all the time, you really need to remind yourself that it is all about snuggles, not struggles, and that life is really got so much better with somebody to love.
Oh,
and
it's our baby.
You know, well, and I'm looking at you, babe.
Oh.
Yeah, so it just is, you know, there's been I was remarking to Mel the other day and it was one of those kind of, you know, you hit you upside the head moments. So I'll just share it with y'all. You know, you change and change and change over time, and it's such a gradual, slow change because you live with yourself and you see, you know, and it's so slow or whatever. You don't necessarily see it, and then you suddenly realize how you used to be about something. And this particularly about, you know, my work versus my personal life and and hanging out with my wife, hanging out with friends, hanging out with my dog. All of that used to be so secondary to the work and getting all the work done, you know. And I don't mean to poo-poo the work that I do. I love my work. But I used to just love my work and really, really have the priority on that. And it's so funny how that gradually changes over time with therapy and recovery and this and that and the other thing. And then you get to a place where you're like, oh man, my priorities really have shifted in my life, haven't they, right? And
Uh-oh.
Yeah, these little things. Anyway, and suddenly you're like, hey, actually, you know what's really important in life? You know what are the things that I'm actually going to remember and look back on and want to remember when I'm 80? You know, what's going to be important to me then? What are going to be
the good times, the memories?
That's right. That's exactly right. You know, am I going to remember that internet fight where I beat that guy down? Am I going to remember?
I don't know. I might still be angry about some of those when I'm 80. I don't know.
I doubt that I'm going to be because you know, 3 months later I'm not.
Right.
They're just
about
gone.
it.
Right? They just don't even matter. But what does matter, right? The people, the family, you know, all of that. So anyway, just reflections on what matters. Okay, and on that line, I wanted to share some just express my condolences and feelings regarding the loss of Mark Plummer this week. He was a former Scientologist, former Sea Org member from ASHO way back in the day, back in the 80s. Old man, really, really nicest guy you ever had anything to do with. I was never on his shit list or angry side, thank goodness, because he could have a little bit of a temper. But he was really that was the unusual. That was the outlying behavior. He was always super, super nice, super caring. Had an extensive, I'm talking file cabinets of Sea Org issues and references that he had taken with him. You know, we have it all digital now. He took it all hard copy. So and he gathered stuff and he would scan it and send it to you. And he was responsible for me getting a lot of stuff that I did not otherwise have. But he was also just a super nice man, and I got to meet him in person in Texas at his home when I went down there for the Going Clear movie showing, and got to take some pics with him. But he was just this really, really, really super nice man, and he died this last week. Yeah. I understand it was over a flu or a sickness, and I spoke with him over the holidays. I mean, I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. Because we had this wonderful conversation about, moving on from Scientology and the things that matter in your life, all the things I was just talking about, we were talking about over Christmas on the phone, right? So anyway, I was just really, really sad that he passed. That was a personal connection for me, and we really lost an important, an important guy, and of course. This is following right after Andreas Heldal Lund died, which Tony and I talked about on this last Monday. So some real significant losses in the ex-Scientology world in the last couple weeks, and very, very sad. And Doug as well, Doug Kramer, a couple weeks before that. So kind of a 1, 2, 3 sort of thing, right? It's one of those things where you'd wonder if you were of a conspiracy mind, right? But it's all, I mean, it's just old age and time catches up with people. Anyway, but pretty sad timing, that it has to go 1, 2, 3 like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to remark on that because anyway, that really does. I feel like all weirded out about that. I'm still not totally settled on him being gone, like him not really being in the world anymore. It hasn't really totally settled in yet.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. A number of people have gotten COVID. Geez, I hope they're okay, or they're going to be okay. Yeah, make sure. I tell you, every time I have a friend or anything, who gets COVID, we had a couple of friends who came back from a cruise and got COVID or something. Anyway. Yeah, apparently it's on the rise out there. Be careful, folks. Be cautious. That's what I'm seeing headlines of. And we are in the midst of an Arctic blast, cold front across the entire United States. It is in your best interest to bundle up if you have to go out at all. If you can just stay home, please do.
I understand in some states it's going to get not only in the negative, but it's going to get into the negative double digits.
Yeah, it's going to be cold. Cold. Here in Denver, it's supposed to get single digits and negative single digits over this weekend, which is pretty unusual for here. I've been here after
it happens every now and again, but not regularly.
Yeah, exactly. Minnesota, it was more regular that it be like that, but here not so much. Anyway, thanks, guys. Yeah, it's just, Mark is a loss to the world for sure. But yeah, weather-wise, it's crazy. You've been getting through a heat wave. Oh yeah, because Theta Novus is in Australia.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, it's basically summer there.
Yeah, flipped. Throw another shrimp on the Barbie for me, right? Yeah. Wow. Double negatives last night. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy weather right now. And anyway, yeah, there's no such thing as global warming because it's freezing in Iowa right now. I mean, it's just. I can't believe we still have to hear that kind of crap out of politicians' mouths. It drives me crazy.
Like, can you go talk to a scientist? They'll explain it to you. Some of them are really good at explaining things.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Why don't we go ahead and get into the meat of it? Yeah, we're good enough in here. And again, I really do want to express how happy I am y'all show up and watch us gabber on here at a mad rate. So I wrote some things down, as I am wont to do, regarding positive, negative consequences or considerations, you could say, about protests, First Amendment audits, etc. I'm going to address the whole First Amendment audits thing after I go through some of these pros and cons, because I wanted to talk about this in terms of protests and then address First Amendment audits as a form of protest or as a form of public display, separate from what we've discussed already about protests, because I don't want to just redo what we already did a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, I guess. When we talked about the thank you for gifting those memberships, Laura. Appreciate that very much. When we talked about the IAS protest and we were talking about protests with Alex and that kind of stuff, that's all still completely what I feel about protests, and that's not what we're going to necessarily talk about, but we'll probably Venn diagram overlap a little bit with some of that today. Okay, so but instead of just talking about, well, this is what I'm for and this is what I'm against or something, or this is why it's all bad, because that's not really my view. I wanted to go into a little bit more nuance about it. So there's pros and there's cons, and there's just a few of each of these things. So let's go ahead and talk about them, and then we can talk about the specifics of what's going on in Hollywood and Clearwater and stuff right now. And I'm not watching a lot of this, by the way. This isn't something I've been glued to my screen on TikTok or on YouTube. But I've seen some of this. I read there was an article in Rolling Stone about it this week. That's how much attention this is getting, and that's a good thing. So here we go. Pros of this kind of activity. Well, exposing harmful practices. Top of the list. Public ridicule may draw attention to harmful practices within the cult, potentially helping to expose and deter abusive behaviors. So obviously we want that. That's what a lot of activism and YouTube videos and ex-members speaking out are trying to do, is they're trying to say these aren't just, and beyond even Scientology, these aren't just new religious movements, guys. These aren't legal operations. These are abusive organizations. There's bad things happening here. And the only way that gets stopped is kind of this whole public exposure, public shaming, public, awareness campaign sort of activity, because the public have a million things to put their attention on all the time. And every single person who's behind every cause is going to tell you,
this is the cause to pay attention to.
Yeah, and they're all valid.
Yeah, well,
a lot of them are. Yeah, actually, that's true. Not all of them are valid, but certainly many of them are.
Yeah.
And so that's a good purpose. That's a perfectly valid and legit thing to do. It's something we're all trying to do. I had somebody comment negatively on my channel this last week about how those, we shouldn't be critical of what's going on out there because those people out there are doing our jobs. And I need to draw a line there, because that's not true. That's what they're doing out on Hollywood Boulevard or in Clearwater is not my job. My job is a very different thing. I'm at a very different end of this whole spectrum. But exposing these harmful practices is part of what I am about too, and so we, meet in the middle on that stuff. Social awareness. Okay, now in terms of going out and publicly protesting, and this includes even ridiculing cult members, right? Like, because that happens out there, and you can't really stop it from happening. People get really, aggressive or passive aggressive with people when they're part of a group that's abusing people, right? Even if they're not the ones directly doing the abuse. So, social awareness, doing this kind of activity might raise awareness about the dangers of cults. Very similar to, exposing the harmful practices, but also encourage discussion about the importance of things like critical thinking and skepticism, right? These can be used as examples or case studies, or let's look at this and see how can people lose their damn minds and how do we maybe learn lessons from that? And that's kind of more getting closer to what I'm about.
Right.
Now, this is a thing that could happen. The people quoted in the Rolling Stone article were quoted as saying this is not what they're trying to do at all, but it could be part of a pro, or it could be considered a pro rather than a con of this kind of activity, would be encouraging dialogue.
Yeah.
Right, and this is where we went when we talked about protests in October when we were with Alex's stuff was, we want dialogue to be happening with this thing.
You want people to talk, not fight.
Exactly. And so, like when Alex was talking about how they were chanting or telling the Scientologists, we love you, we don't hate you, we want you to be happy, right? Kind of thing. So encouraging dialogue could be a pro for this. You could use this for that sort of thing. And of course, there is the number one thing that these folks out on the audits are working on doing, and certainly that any protesters are trying to do anywhere when a public protest is happening, and that is to dissuade potential followers. right? Be at the entrance point where you're like, no, 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 you don't want to be part of this. This is not. Are you sure you know what you're doing walking in this place, right?
Yeah.
And so, it may serve as a deterrent for individuals who are considering joining the cult, making them think twice about their choices, right? So that's certainly legit, certainly a very good thing to be doing, and we want public to be more aware of this stuff. Yeah. So I can get behind that side of it, right? I think a lot of us could. But if we're going to acknowledge all of the pros, and I just did, I wanted to lead with that because I don't want anybody thinking I'm just Mr. Negative Nelly about all this stuff. I'm really not trying to be. I'm trying to be as objective as I can, because I'm not doing this stuff, and I do what I do, and so I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I think I can think about this and have thoughts about it and voice opinions about it, and so that's what I'm going to do. And so I do feel that there are some cons to this as well, right? And there are 4 of these I wrote, or discovered, you could say. I was actually doing a lot of research today on this. Fueling isolation. When you're out there doing a protest or getting in people's faces, especially cult members who are already in, let's remember everything we know about cults now. Now I'm going to ask you to understand this from a slightly different perspective than the angry protester who is righteously, indignant about anybody questioning what they're doing. Because there are other points of view to consider in this whole picture. And the people who are in the cult, who are directly affected by this, have a point of view, and they, believe it or not, they are human beings. Mm-hmm. And they have, and if there's ever any intention or desire to help them or get them out or shut this thing down, like, what does that look like? What does shut this down look like? Well, it looks to me like, if you really wanted to do it in the best possible way, that you would do it in such a way that they shut it down, not that we have to go shut them down. And that's going to take their seeing what's going on too. That's just, I know that's not necessarily what's going to happen, but in this, ideal situation. So a potential con of this, right, is fueling isolation. It can isolate or further isolate cult members, reinforcing their belief in the us versus them mentality and making it harder for them to break away. As I've said before, right, protests and when you rile up people's amygdalas and you get their fear responses going, or you get them defensive about something, then they are going to double and triple and quadruple down on their belief or on the rightness of their position, is more specifically what's going to happen. You're attacking it. I have to defend it. It's an automatic instinctive response. It's born out of our tribalism. None of this stuff is anything we have to think about. It's in the moment activity and behavior. So if you want to make it harder for those cult members to get out of there, be a jerk to them. Now, that's not all protesters, and that's not all First Amendment auditors or anything like that. I don't want to paint with too broad a brush or be perceived as doing that by somebody saying, oh, well, Chris said all of this is going to harm cult members. I didn't say that. I said if you're ridiculing them, if you're attacking them, if you're getting them defensive and getting in somebody's face.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
How do you feel when somebody gets in your face?
Yeah, it puts you on the defensive. It makes you feel, your fight or flight kicks in. Exactly. And that's the whole point. So that is an effect. Okay. Now, whether you care about that effect or not is up to you, but know that that is an effect of this. You don't, again, it's not a matter of whether you mean to do that or not. You're going to do that if you're doing this kind of activity. That's going to happen. There are legal consequences that should be considered in this, and there was a short video that I retweeted or posted up on Twitter or something this week from a man who went into a little bit of detail about this, talking about this very thing, that there
it could lead to, might lead to legal issues, especially if it involves harassment or defamation. It's very important to consider the legal implications of these activities. Now, with Scientology, that gets ramped up to a degree that people rarely foresee.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so you don't want them coming after you.
Exactly. If you're going to take on Scientology, you need to be prepared for what is going to happen to you as a result. Now, over all these years, I have been very lucky, blessed even. I'll even use that word by whatever, our angel Xenu or whatever. I just have been. And I'm fine with that, right? I have not been at the receiving end of the worst that the Church of Scientology has to offer. But I'm not getting millions of views on TikTok, am I? Right? And when you do that kind of thing, you invite the Church of Scientology's attention. And it's attention that you need to be ready for, because they are going to come after you if you pose too big of a threat to them. Right? That's just how it is. And that's something you really need to think about, and kind of educate yourself about, because it's kind of surprising. It surprises people. It shouldn't. I mean, the Jane Does are suing the Church of Scientology and have been since 2018 over this exact thing we're talking about. The fair gaming, the stalking, the harassment, the intimidation, the calling your neighbors, the calling your friends, the calling your jobs, the, anything and everything they can do to ruin you utterly. That's the mission of the Office of Special Affairs when they have you on their target list. And they don't mess around, and they don't have anything else to do. It's a little bit like talking about the Terminator. I try to kind of communicate about OSA that way sometimes, right?
Yeah, that's a good metaphor for that, yeah.
Right? Because it's like when Kyle Reese is telling, oh my God, Sarah Connor.
Yes.
About, sometimes you have those little brain flips, right? When he's telling her about him, right? Remember the intensity of that scene? Like, they're never going to stop. Ever. They don't get tired. They don't give up. It's like that, right? Once OSA is on you, man, I mean, you just really got to think about that. And like I said, I've been very, very lucky to be on the receiving end of very little of that compared to Mike, Leah, Tony, Karen De La Carriere, so many other people. Okay, so enough about that. Now, there's also this other point, and this is the one that I'm actually most afraid of in terms of some of the activity that's going on now, but in a more general sense, this is absolutely something to think about in terms of protests and audits and stuff. Escalation of the conflict, right? Like there is going to be a conflict, and when the adrenaline gets going and the testosterone is flowing, people can, men and women, I'm not just referring to men here, right? But this can create a situation in the moment that nobody went in there expecting to create. The littlest things can set people off sometimes. The misunderstandings, the harsh words that turn into harsher words that turn into,
violence.
Exactly, right? Publicly ridiculing individuals, doing antagonistic styles of protests can stigmatize, right? It can make it, can escalate tensions. We'll get to the stigmatization. Can escalate tensions between cult members and those criticizing them, potentially leading to confrontations and violence, right? And so we see Scientology all too willing to get in people's faces, push those borders, push those lines, and call the cops immediately and at once. And we already know there are so many lessons. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk about this. There are so many lessons to be learned now from 2008, which is ancient history to a lot of people. It was
16 years ago.
That's right. So, memories, right? I was in the Sea Org on the RPF at that time. So I was seeing the anonymous protesters through cracks in the windows and stuff like that. And then continuing to see them when I graduated the RPF in 2009 and got out back in the world and saw them up in Seattle and saw them in LA doing protests, right? And the signs and all that. And it did help. I've said many, many times, it helped plant seeds of doubt within me because the signs they were carrying, and they were not, you know, getting in your face and trying to create hostile confrontations. It was a different style of protest. And that was really good. And there were a lot of lessons to be learned from that time, right? Mark Bunker, early on in the anonymous protest activities, made a video saying, hey, here's how to, if you want to do this, here's how to do it right so you stay safe and so that you are more effective. And to their credit, they listened to him at Wise Beard Man, if y'all remember that. And that's the same Mark Bunker who's on this Clearwater City Council, that same man, did all this back then. And it was awesome.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, no, it was. Sorry, I was...
Yeah.
Oh, there's Alex in the chat. Hey, Alex. All right, cool. So, yeah, so we were just looking at a little bit of history there with Anonymous, but I wanted to point out that that was so effective and went on for like a year, more than a year, from beginning to end, because of the way they went about it, right? And this was in 2008. There were people filming and there were cameras, but I don't remember it being live streamed. I don't know if people were doing.
Yeah, I don't even know if you could do that on YouTube back then.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
it was
think
so new. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw photos. There were tons and tons and tons of photos. But I don't remember seeing lots of video, and certainly not live streaming. In other words, there's this added incentive now, but we'll get to that. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself.
Yeah.
Finally, the last thing in terms of a sort of balanced look at the pros and the cons is stigmatization, right? If you're riling people up, antagonizing them, whatever, if you're getting into the negative side of this, it can contribute to stigmatization, making it harder for cult members to reintegrate into society once they decide to leave the cult. And as we went over, right, it can actually make them double down on their beliefs. So, so these things, there's some gray area here in terms of these things running together, but, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll bet that's true. Oh yeah, iPhones didn't even exist yet, Stuart says. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, I guess the bottom line on terms of the pros and cons of all this stuff is that it's important in dealing with cults, at least from my vantage point, from the way I come at this in terms of understanding these people and trying to deal with them in such a way that we can get them out and we can end these abusive activities, because at the end of the day, it's what we all want. I think we need to do it with our rational head on straight. And so I think it's important that we remember that there is somebody there. There are human beings there to understand and empathize with and think about as part of the equation. Okay, now in terms of First Amendment audits, I actually pulled up a thing here on this, and I wanted to go over this a little bit because some people might not know about all of this or how this works. And this is actually just from the Wikipedia page on it. So I'm just going to read a couple sections just to kind of cover a couple points about what this First Amendment audit activity is versus a protest, because they're kind of similar-ish, but they're really not the same thing. First Amendment audits are a largely American social movement that usually involves photographing or filming from a public space. It's often categorized by its practitioners, known as auditors, as activism and citizen journalism that tests constitutional rights. In particular, the right to photograph and video record in a public space, which is, of course, a right we have per the First Amendment. Auditors have tended to film or photograph government buildings, equipment, access control points, as well as any personnel present. Auditors believe that the movement promotes transparency and open government, which I agree with. I have definitely seen the utility of this in certain contexts. While critics have argued that audits are typically confrontational, criticizing some tactics as forms of intimidation and harassment, which I also agree with. I think that there is a darker or negative side to this as well. And so, like a protest, a First Amendment audit can be done in a rational, let's get something positive done here, or it can be done in a negative, hostile, antagonistic way where you're simply creating a conflict where none needed to exist. You're the reason for the conflict is because you're coming in there to test your rights. And I think I think there's something wrong with somebody's head when they're doing stuff like that. Some opponents of the tactics and legal understandings of auditors refer to auditors as frauditors. It's mostly a U.S. concept, but it has happened. There's instances of it in the UK, Canada, India, and Russia. Okay, so it really comes down to a 2019 Fox News article. An auditor stated that the goal of an audit is to, quote, put yourself in places where you know chances are the cops are going to be called. Are they going to uphold the Constitution, uphold the law, or break the law? Auditors state that they seek to educate the public that photography is not a crime by publicizing cases where officers illegally stop what is perceived as illegal conduct. Online videos of audits can also generate income for auditors through advertising revenue and donations. Many critics of auditors point out that many auditors make substantial, italicized, amounts of money from their channels on social media platforms such as YouTube and TikTok, with some of the more popular channels on YouTube making over $150,000 a year.
Jesus.
Critics argue this provides a huge incentive for auditors to be confrontational and abusive, and is often the true motive for their activities rather than any free speech or other First Amendment activism.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Well, it is. And I think in this nuanced conversation that we're having today that you can find legit examples of good, audit behavior and bad audit behavior, probably so far already in the video work that's been done on Hollywood Boulevard, et cetera. Yeah, critics argue that audits are often confrontational in nature, as auditors often refuse to self-identify or explain their activities. Some auditors yell insults, derogatory language, and vulgarities at police officers who attempt to stop them from recording and insist on identification, or to Sea Org members standing around on Hollywood Boulevard doing their job. Yeah. Critics have also noted that many auditors profit from the videos they publish on YouTube and other platforms. According to a report by the Daily Beast, the growing popularity of auditing videos online has led to, quote, ruthless competition, end quote, between auditors, which incentivizes more dramatic, confrontational, and abusive videos. Okay? So there's sort of the critic side of this as laid out on Wikipedia. I haven't said anything particularly, except that I can see that both of these things exist and are true at the same time, depending all on what? Context. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. What happens where, when, how, and who did it. And, right? And in some cases, why. So I'm not going to get in anybody's head and try to psychoanalyze anybody who's doing this kind of work, but I am going to say that there are perils that this is fraught with. Potential pitfalls that could be damaging to the individuals who are doing it and to the movement overall. And when I mean the movement, I mean this entire ex-Scientology, ex-cult thing. Because Leah Remini right now is suing the Church of Scientology to legally end fair game. That is something she's actually asking the court to do, is make them stop. And the Church of Scientology's arguments back, as Tony and I have covered in detail, have been to claim that this is all First Amendment protected speech, that they're trashing Leah on public media, and that they have a right to do so according to the First Amendment.
So they're kind of helping Scientology out.
Well, if there's another point to this, which is that the church is also arguing that because of Leah's negativity and continual criticism and harassment of Scientology, that's how they frame her criticisms. Because of that, they say, people are violently attacking and even killing Scientologists. Now, so far, those arguments have not held water in any court they've been presented in, because the instances or examples that Scientology provides are not provable instances of Leah actually inciting violence. So, if tomorrow or the next day somebody does incite violence on Hollywood Boulevard or in Clearwater or anywhere else where these sort of things are happening, and that dot can be connected back to Leah in any way, that directly endangers her entire lawsuit. Am I telling anybody what to do right now? No, I'm not. I'm trying to make people aware of the dangers that are involved in what's happening right now. I'm not saying it's an absolute guaranteed proposition that people out there are going to ruin Leah's case. I didn't say that. I said there's a possibility of that those dots could be connected if violence were to happen at one of these things. And could violence happen at one of these things? Of course it could. The other danger here is that as more and more people find out about this and more crowds develop, I understand there's like 20, 30 people showing up at the Hollywood Test Center with their cameras filming away and egging on, this kind of thing and talking to the protesters. And again, according to the Rolling Stone article, one of the staff members there, one of the Sea Org members there, is even becoming this TikTok sensation. And people are like talking about him in first person, right? As, Sebastian, this guy's Sebastian, right? And, let's free this guy, hashtag free Sebastian, right? So as more and more people get attracted to this, or this becomes a thing, well, we could have another 2008. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Or
it could go the other way.
we can have something horrible. And that would not be awesome. That would be the exact opposite of awesome. It could torpedo Leah's lawsuit. It could torpedo other activities. It could torpedo interest in prosecuting Scientology by the grand jury that's been impaneled in California, LA County, since 2018. What are they waiting for, right? Well, they're waiting for enough evidence, right? I'm pretty sure they're watched Annie Masterson's case like a hawk, and they're probably watching Leah's and the Jane Doe lawsuit as well. So this is the kind of thing that should be thought about or considered, and most of what I've seen in terms of comments and feedback on this, that I've seen or gotten back when I've sort of tried to throw some of this out there is, they're doing your job, you're a jerk, and if you're not fully in support of this, then you're against us, kind of thing, which, need I remind everybody, that's pretty culty damn thinking. So we don't want any of that kind of nonsense, okay? And that's basically what I wanted to say on this stuff tonight in terms of the pros and cons. I see we have a call in the queue. I don't want to waste any time getting around to that. I hope I've been clear that I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I'm just throwing out some ideas to think about in regards to all this, okay? So let's see about picking up this call here. Okay, hello, is this Travis?
Yes, sir, it is.
Hey, welcome to the show, Travis.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to see you there, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, so I think, Chris, in talking about the protests that you're referring to, I think an important dimension to add is something that I think you have an incredible insight to. What am I referring to? The psychology or the mental processes that's going on in the head of the Scientology member? Both the full-time Sea Org person and then I guess the public. Would you filled both of those roles at some point in your life?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Okay. Had you put yourself in those positions, either one or both.
Yep.
You're walking past the protesters. You're on staff. You're a Sea Org person. What's going on in your head? What would be going on at the facility itself internally How are they handling that? How would you personally be handling that?
Right. Okay. So, so a few things. Thing number one is most staff are just sort of kept in the dark about it and are just told, do your jobs. You know, don't pay any attention. Curtains closed. Oh, it's it's drill time, as we would call it in PAC when Anonymous came around or protesters came around. It's protester drill, right? And so all the doors get shut, all of that. So we tended actually on the bases to not even think about what was going on out there. But for those who saw it or were engaging with it, and had that been me, because I did see it and one time engaged with it, it's a double, like I said, it's a doubling and tripling down on the beliefs, right? It's a sort of oh, these pathetic clowns out here again, or the lies we were told by OSA. Oh, these guys are just getting paid by big pharma or getting paid by the government or getting paid by some activist group or something. Some SP paid these guys to come out here and harass us. And OSA would always tell us stuff like that. So we could, again, thought-stopping cliches, right? Oh, they're just paid goofballs, right? They're just internet trolls.Ey're just assholes. And we could just write them off very, very easily as a result of that. That's my immediate answer, but there's probably more details.
Oh, so there were two major components in what you just said.
Yeah.
Number one, and this is the first I've heard of it, maybe you've brought it up before, a protester drill.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming there's a policy involved with that?
No, actually, no. It was just a locally developed thing of when. Oh well, there was Sea Org policy regarding doing drills. We did fire drills, smoke drills, earthquake drills. We did all those kind of preparedness drills on the bases all the time. So this was treated like another drill. Oh. What do you do when protesters show up? Here's what we do. Curtains closed, doors locked, everybody goes inside. We have tunnels under the street that we use so we don't have to see them to go to lunch or go to other places on the base. That entire base can be accessed underground. So you don't have to go up on L. Ron Hubbard Way. Theoretically, you wouldn't have to go outside for months if you lived on the base. So that's the drill that would kind of go into activation there, yeah.
I'd like to point out that you contextualize that drill with how they would handle a natural disaster, earthquakes, these kind of things.
Yep.
Think about that for a moment.
Yeah.
That's about as extreme as you could be.
That's a good
and
point.
This is coming from a guy who lived through 2 hurricanes. So the second part that I'd like to bring up to you, or for the audience, this is mostly for the audience sake, is that you've got all this corpus of knowledge within Scientology that pretty much stops the thinking and stops the engagement of the public, the staff, from even paying any attention to the protesters.
That is the entire effort of OSA with existing Scientologists is don't look here, nothing to see, don't pay attention. This is not your business. You don't need to worry about these guys. We're taking care of it.
Yeah, not only that, protesters are, you mentioned, paid shills by evil pharma. And you didn't mention psychiatrists, but that's part and parcel.
Yep.
That's a pretty heavy-duty headspace to be in, to the extent that if I were one of those people, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not even given the time of day to somebody with a sign or says you're part of a cult. Yeah, I'm part of a cult, and when did you get your paycheck? When do you get that? That's my response.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and apparently, I mean, from what I'm seeing in the brief videos that I have seen and heard about, is that they're continuing to try to do their testing line stuff and bring people in and do the body routing. So I guess in the face of this on Hollywood Boulevard, they're just trying to treat it as bull bait, right? As Henny asked about in the comments, right? Okay, here's the test. Here's the test of your bull bait. Oh, I'm getting my bull bait tested again today. That's another thing that the guys at the test center are probably telling each other every day.
Yeah. So the conjecture that I have is that in a regular protest that one would have, let's say, out in front of an abortion clinic, because that happens frequently, for better or worse.
I've been to those.
Oh, you have? Okay.
As a counter protester, we were protesting the protesters.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I digress.
Hey,
please, what were you saying?
That's cool too. Hey, that's awesome too. Sounds to me like the Scientology, the effort to protest Scientology has to take a wholly unique and different approach than what normally would occur. Now, you obliquely answered this earlier. However, I think that there is a need for, in this particular show, because people are watching now and they'll watch it in the future.
Sure.
Is it accurate of me to say that it needs to be very tailored, the protest?
I think it needs to be kind of tailored. I don't think it has to be like massively so. I think the only thing you're really trying to avoid is the hostility, right? The anger that people have, or that they will generate that in order to create conflict. And that's what you are kind of trying to avoid, is avoid conflict. Protest, make your voice heard, be there, stand there, film them, do that, go for it. But don't create the conflict. That's the problem. And at least if I had to bring it down to a couple words, right? That's what I'm suggesting.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
Is it right for me to say that Scientology wants conflict? They want confrontation.
Yes, they do.
They want those things.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's a good idea to meet that type of mentality, that type of hostility with conflict and hostility. I don't know that necessarily produces anything good.
It doesn't. In fact,
I'm old.
No, you're not old at all. I mean, yeah, we're all old, but no, they do want this is a really good point. Thank you for bringing this up, because this is exactly what they want, because they want to. They're inviting you. They're begging you to hit them. They're begging you to cross the line. And they are incentivized, the Scientologists are incentivized to get the protesters or the auditors to cross the line, to hit them, to spit at them, to, go too far. And they got the police on speed dial. They demonstrate that daily. And so that is what they want to do. So if the people who go there are itching for a fight, believe me, Scientology will give it to you, and then they will see you and smile at you and wave at you as you're in the back of the police car being driven off. That's what they want. So that's why it's really in everybody's best interest to never give them what they want.
Well, and the other side of that is to fully develop that point. Not only does Scientology want it, and not only will you wind up at a police station, Scientology will use that as a PR mechanism.
Correct.
Till the end of time.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Exactly as we went over. That's
internally.
Right. Oh, big time internally. If Sea Org members are assaulted, they are heroes. I mean, heroes, right? In the community, in the Scientology world, they'd be promoted to officers. I mean, it's a big deal, right? So, you're making great points here today.
Well, I hope everybody watching this now in the future really pays attention to that. Assaulting somebody or somehow meeting their aggression with aggression creates martyrs, at least internally for Scientology.
That's right.
And that's the kind of thing I think obliquely you were saying would show up to, or that's the kind of information that would be utilized against Leah Remini.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's exactly what I was implying.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Got a couple others here, so we're going to pick these up real fast. Hello, is this Henny?
It is Henny. Hi, Chris. Hi, Melissa.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. So good to see you all and be involved in another great conversation.
Yeah, what you got for us tonight?
How are you doing? Okay, well, as far as protesting goes, I believe in protesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in violence,
Mm-hmm.
and protesting, to me, has nothing to do with violence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that the protesting is happening in the correct place.
Mm.
If you want to protest, in my opinion, the people that it matters to, that it bothers, then that's not the place to go.
I completely agree with you.
Okay, the hierarchy.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Because David Miscavige does not like that. He wants blocks closed off when he's around. Okay?
That's right.
So to protest in front of him would be very annoying. And that's what your protest is about. It's not only to annoy, although that is part of the help, but it's to let them know that this is not acceptable
That
or
you see them,
tolerable. Yes, and that you see them, Melissa. Good for you. And that you see them and that they should hear you. Okay? So I really believe in protesting. As far as trying to get people out, I think that that's a whole different ball game. That's protesting for those people only makes them more defensive and, as you say, steadfast in their unreality.
Yep.
Okay?
That's right.
And I really believe that. That has to be handled differently. XI brought out a very good idea to bring one to lunch. If everybody brought one to lunch, they would have nobody there in the cult, okay? Because it's just something to think about, And once you get those juices flowing, then people are apt to look and apt to free themselves. You follow what I mean?
Totally.
But that has to be done. That has to be done in a different way, not with protesting.
That's right.
Like I said, the protesting needs to be done, absolutely, but in the correct place.
Exactly.
As far as the auditing that you were talking about, honey,
Yeah.
I always thought of it, it's either you're audited by the IRS or you're audited in Scientology, which is child abuse, okay? It's the beginning of how the brainwashing indoctrination begins.
Yep.
That's my opinion.
Of course.
Okay, you're taught desensitization immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they do that by auditing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with having people face each other and stare at each other and not blink and curse and scream, and it's the child abuse that goes on there is prolific and criminal, in my opinion.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. And you get that's not the auditing we were talking about tonight, though.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
I get it.
Cool.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
just wanted you to understand where my auditing was coming from.
No, totally, Henny, totally. No, I'm down with all that. I talk about it all to
I know.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
I gotta let you go.
Soon. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, bye.
Love you guys.
Love you too. Bye. All right, good. And we have this last one to pick up here. Hello, is this France?
Of course it is.
Hi.
Hello, you both. Hello, everybody. Well, Happy New Year to you both.
Thank you.
Right back to you. Thank you. Yeah, Happy New Year.
Oh, my God. Melissa looks amazing. She's like glowing. I don't know what happened. What's happening? She looks...
Well, thank
Anyways, I just wanted to thank you both for taking my call. I just wanted to let you know here in Paris they are opening up a big building for, I don't know, millions of euros, I don't know, dollars, how much is it's a big thing that is happening right now, that Scientology is opening up a big building in Paris.
Yep.
And nobody is saying anything.
Oh, we talked about it on Monday.
Of course, I know. The thing is, why is there no Why are no people on the street?
Oh, in Paris, culture. Yeah, good point. That would be a great place to have some protesters.
Yeah.
If we wanted to have a protest, that might be the place to do it.
And now is what is the understanding why Scientology is so clever to do it in Paris and to do it in a country like France, is because in your passport in France, you have no religion standing. It's a no-go. You can't say I am Catholic, I'm whatsoever.
Right.
It's a no-go.
Okay.
And so the thing in France is they literally, because of what's with the history, and they want to avoid actually that someone puts you in this corner of your religion. And I don't even know how to explain it because it's very difficult to say, but it's like there is no way in school, here are no schools where you're taught any kind of religion. Kids are growing up with being, what's the word for it, without having any, when you have no God.
Oh, atheists?
No, not. Yes, that's how the kids grow up here because they want to avoid any kind of conflict. So, for me,
can't say I'm really arguing with that right now. Sounds like a good idea to me.
Yes, because well, I don't know what to say, and I highly respect everybody else's opinion. But the truth is, here in this country, they are so fed up with the whole religion story, and I try to say it very sweet, that they say there is no way we allow anymore that people get in conflict with each other because of a religion, which cause people to act, unfortunately, and I don't want to say the words, but, unfortunately, very violent stuff, but they don't allow it anymore. So the reason why I was so surprised by myself when I saw the news about having this big building and nobody cared is because of that. Nobody really cares. And that's why they choose the country like France to say, okay, we built our big building. Nobody probably will ever enter it, but we have it on the map and we can say to the big world we are doing it. And I don't think the French are not really into it. They don't really care. They don't really care.
I totally
Honestly,
get what you're saying
care.
now.
Oh,
I
yeah.
totally get what you're saying. That's, yeah.
They're
I agree.
do what you want.
Yeah.
They're like, do what you want, do your business, take a big building, that's nice looking, but, we have our Versailles, we have our king, we have our French nationality, we have whatever. And we don't literally care as French, but it doesn't mean, of course, if David Miscavige is having his big, whatever conference and saying, oh, we built this big building. And that's the manipulation I see. Here in France, nobody really cares. But, of course, I always say, if you do any protest, please do it peacefully. Just my advice. Of course, there is no reason to do it otherwise. And I would love to see the people here going on the streets and saying anti-Scientology, but I tell you the truth, they don't care. So why they should go on the streets for that? Because it doesn't matter to them. So here we go.
Fair enough.
Who cares about David? Nobody in France, I'm telling you the truth, knows the name David Miscavige.
Wow.
Nobody. It's the truth.
Wow.
Nobody. Maybe, of course, Tom Cruise. That's another story. John Travolta, of course. But nobody cares, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, cares about David Miscavige and whole Europe. Anyways, I love you both so much. Happy New Year. I love to see you. The whole community is amazing. And thank you so much that you're back. Love you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Excellent. Okay. Good. And Alex here is in the chat, and I want to read a little bit about what he was saying here. Because he says, I'm sorry, I have to disagree with Daisuke, our last caller there. The French care. They care a lot. In fact, they have been one of the most proactive countries in prosecuting Scientology and attempting to shut their activities down. I do, however, agree that the wider French public as a whole don't know or care about Scientology. Very similar here in the UK. So absolutely, it's not so much a disagreement as a sort of clarification of the situation. And Alex is organizing a protest for the Paris org opening, as I understand it here from the comments. So y'all should be watching and talking to him and checking out his channel if you are not already subscribed, Apostate Alex on YouTube. Okay, I wanted to do two things real fast. So we're going to wrap up. We're done with the calls. So I get to take my headphones off. And I wanted to do two things real fast. Thing number one is I want Melissa to find us our critical thinking card of the week. And while she's doing that, I want to give a particularly huge shout out, thank you, to everyone who has contributed to the Ideal Studio wish list that I put together, because some of you are even watching right now, and I really, really want to thank you. And this last week, I got something really special off of that list, and I'm going to just kind of hold it up because I can't really do much more than that. But if y'all can see this here, this little box here, it's called an ATEM Mini Pro, and it can take 4 inputs of cameras and things coming into it, and sound. All the sound has been connected to this thing and is flowing through it, and it controls those different camera inputs and sound inputs, and allows me to do transitions and allows me to do some other things. Here's all I can show you right now with the setup I have, because I don't have the other camera to plug in. I need a different wire for that. I was going to try to show you with my GoPro how I could switch between 2 cameras, but I can't show that to you yet today. But I will show you a simple little thing, a picture-in-picture. You can see there that I got the same camera, but it could be 2 different if I wanted to set it up that way, right? And I can do that little deal there. It's just a little tiny thing. But that's one of many functions. This thing can also do green screen, chroma key, and some other things, which I haven't even played with yet. I just got it a few days ago. So I wanted to, like I said, throw out a real big thanks to everyone who has helped me with this. This has been really, really great. Got better lights. We got a better system here. And all of this is moving in the direction of getting better and better live streaming and video work done for you guys. I've got things really coming together on this February drop dead date for the Tone Scale live stream. That is happening, do or die. I'm treating that like I treated my master's thesis. It's a date, it's there, and there's nothing else I can do but meet it. Like on that date, that live stream's happening, so I better be ready. And that's kind of how I'm dealing with it. So it's going along well. And yeah, and it's awesome, you guys. It really, really is awesome. I will say there is more on the list. So if any of you are feeling generous, the link is in the description section to this and all my videos to my Amazon wish list. Okay, Mel, what do we got for this week?
Anecdotal. Using personal experience or an isolated example instead of a valid argument, especially to dismiss statistics. Jason said that was all cool and everything, but his grandfather smoked like 30 cigarettes a day and lived until 97. So don't believe everything you read about meta-analysis of sound studies showing proven causal relationships.
Okay, no more. That's it. We're canceling logical fallacies in your thinking. You just need to stop. Just all of you. You just need to. It's so easy, right? So easy. All right, guys. So you're going to see tomorrow 2-hour talk between me and Apostate Alexander Barnes-Ross, the guy in the chat. We had a talk about sort of the, I'm calling it the rocky future, Scientology's rocky future is what I called the title of our talk. We got to go deep on some stuff historically and future, sort of supposition and talk about where we think Scientology is going. And I thought we had a really fun, great chat about that. So speaking of cults podcast, posting tomorrow. And then Sunday, you will have a pre-recorded Q&A, just like last week. I'm not going to go live this week, I swear. It's going to be cold. We're bundling up this weekend, and so I'm just going to shoot my Q&A tomorrow and post it and get that out of the way. So, and then, of course, Monday, as usual, After Scientology, straight up and vertical with Tony. All right, guys. Thank you very much for coming around. Thank you for your support, and... yeah, Alex, it was 2 hours. And it was mostly me gabbing on. I'm sorry this time, guys, but it's mostly me gabbering on at a mad rate. All right, see you guys soon.
Good night.
Bye-bye.